The Tanzanian Standard Gauge Railway is among the biggest projects that the country has ever done since its independence. The project is set to link Tanzania with its neighbors Uganda and Rwanda, but also to improve from the previously used meter gauge railway. But why is the project really important to its people and East Africa as a whole? Tanzania got its first railway during the colonial period under the German rule. In the year 1893 in Tanga, the Germans started the construction of the first railway, which was meant to reach the inner parts of the country, but it ended in Korogwe, since the construction company went bankrupt. From the year 1900 to 1950, there were construction of several railway lines in Tanzania under the German and British rule. Among them is the Central Line, which extended from Dar es Salaam to Kigoma, Tabora, Mwanza, Arusha, Tanga, Dodoma, and Mpanda.
The biggest change since independence is that the people now feel that their country's future is in their own hands.
After the independence of Tanganyika and Zanzibar and the formation of Tanzania, the railway system was still in use but not as efficient as before, due to several challenges like cost of running, lack of well-educated personnel, poor leadership skills in the railway sector, and lack of enough market or demand. In the year 1970, the construction of the Tanzania-Zambia railway system, known as TAZARA, started.
There were 16,000 Chinese workers on site at the peak.
With the support of the government of China, the construction was completed in 1975, linking the Dar es Salaam port with Kapirimposhi in Zambia. This was the biggest railway project in the history of Tanzania, until 2017, the beginning of the construction of the Tanzanian Standard Gauge Railway under the leadership of the new president, His Excellency John Joseph Pombe Magufuli. The project dates back to April 2006, when the African Union and East Africa Community declared to develop new railway lines from the meter gauge to the standard gauge. The Tanzania SGR, constructed by a Turkish railway company called Yap Makez under the supervision of the Tanzania Railway Corporation, has a length of 1,219 kilometers, stretching from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza, with a track gauge of 1,435 millimeters or 4 feet 8.5 inches. It's a huge difference from the previous meter gauge railway with a track gauge of 1,000 millimeters. The difference in track gauge has a massive impact on how the railway works. The SGR is designed with an axle load of 35 metric tons and expected to handle around 10,000 tons according to the Tanzania Railway Corporation. This will bring relief in transporting costs and time, but also cause a huge job loss to the trucking business. One thing that makes the Tanzania SGR unique from other railway lines in East Africa is the use of electricity as its main source of energy. According to an article by the Environment and Energy Study Institute, diesel-powered trains transfer about 30 to 35% of the energy generated by the combustion to the wheels, while supplying electricity directly from an overhead power line transfers about 95% of the energy to the wheels. But you might ask, how can they supply enough power to the railway system? This issue was overseen by the government, so they started the construction of a hydropower plant that will increase the power supply. The construction of the Nyerere hydropower plant started in 2019 and expected to be done by 2022. The use of electric trains has a huge impact on the environment. It reduces the carbon footprint compared to using diesel trains because it only emits 20 to 35% less carbon compared to diesel trains. Even though the construction of the railway had a huge impact on the environment because of the massive earthworks, clearing of forest and tunneling, making way for the railway, it's a small sacrifice taken for a better future in the transportation system. The choice made by the Tanzanian government of electrifying the railway system will reduce the national dependence on foreign oil. According to an article on Quora.com, a diesel train with a load of 5,000 tons consumes 4 liters in 1 kilometer. That means moving the same amount of cargo from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza, which is 1,219 kilometers on rail, would need 4,472 liters of diesel, which would cost around 8 million Tanzanian shillings or $3,400, whereas it would only cost 3 million Tanzanian shillings or $1,300 to move the same amount of cargo on the same route on an electric train. The construction of the Tanzania SGR project has brought up an increase in internal economic activities. There is a huge demand of raw materials like cement, steel, quarry and manpower.
Tunategemea mpaka Makutupola tutatumia zaidi ya mifuko milioni 9,200,000 ya simenti ambao unazungumzia almost takribani tani 480,000. Viwanda vyetu vya Tanzania hapa Simba Cement, Twiga Cement ndio wanaotoa hizo cement. Kwa maana yake ni kwamba uzalishaji unakuwa mkubwa. Tanzania zaidi ya subcontractors hao zaidi ya kwa loti ya kwanza zaidi ya 600, loti ya pili zaidi ya 500. Ni Watanzania wenzetu ambao wanafanya kazi. Tuna wafanyakazi zaidi ya 14,000 ambao wako wafanyakazi ambao wako wanafanya kazi kwenye mradi wetu kuanzia Dar es Salaam hapa all the way mpaka Makupola.
Tanzania SGR project is meant to be a key factor for the development of Tanzania, as it will make production and transportation of goods and commodities very affordable, and in return increase production. The time used in traveling from one city to another will be cut in half. A good example is a trip from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. The trip will only be 3 hours on the electric train, with the maximum speed of 160 km per hour for the passenger trains and 120 km per hour for the cargo train. Before, this trip will take almost 8 hours by vehicle. The future plans of the project is to reach Rwanda through Isaka, which has a distance of 371 kilometers from Isaka to Kigali. It will remove the hassle for the Rwandese people going all the way to the Dar es Salaam port for cargo. The first phase of the project, Dar es Salaam to Morogoro, is expected to be ready by the end of 2020. The Tanzanian Standard Gauge Railway project is truly an anticipated project by most Tanzanian and East Africans, and hoping that it will bring changes to the lives of East Africans.